Close your eyes for a second and picture a millionaire. Go ahead, actually do it. I'll bet you pictured a yacht. Maybe a mansion with a circular driveway, a guy in sunglasses stepping out of something German and expensive. Now I need to tell you something that's gonna mess with that picture a little. That guy you just imagined, the one with the yacht, probably isn't a millionaire at all. He's just in debt with better lighting. My name is Aiton, and today I want to talk about the gap between what $1 million is supposed to buy in your head and what it actually buys in real life. Because that gap is the reason so many people feel like failures for not hitting a number that was never really achievable the way they imagined it. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what $1 million really does for you. And honestly, it's better than the fantasy, just in a completely different way. Here's the uncomfortable stat to start with. $1 million in 1990 had the purchasing power of about $2.5 million today. Flip that around, and it means today's millionaire is walking around with the actual buying power of someone who had about $390,000 back then. That's not yacht money. That's comfortable dentist money. A nice car, a paid-off house eventually, a solid retirement. Nobody made a movie about the guy who achieves comfortable. So where did the yacht picture even come from? Mostly from decades of movies and TV using round numbers as shorthand for absurd wealth, back when $1 million actually meant something closer to that. The number stuck in our culture, even after inflation quietly hollowed it out. We're still running 1985 math in a 2026 economy, and it's making perfectly successful people feel like they're falling short of a target that doesn't even mean what they think it means.
Think about it like this. Imagine someone handed you a cup that's been quietly leaking the entire time you've been filling it. You keep pouring in exactly what you were told would fill it to the top, and it never quite gets there. And you start to assume something is wrong with you, when really the cup itself has been losing ground the whole time. That's what inflation does to a fixed target like $1 million. The number never moved. What it can buy quietly did. Let's talk about what $1 million actually generates, because this is where the fantasy really falls apart. Using the classic 4% rule, $1 million invested can generate about $40,000 a year, indefinitely, without you touching the principal. $40,000. That's a solid salary in a lot of places, but it is not yacht money. It is not private jet money. It's grocery budget still matters money. And that's actually the most important thing I want you to understand today, because it's not depressing. It's just different from what you were told to expect. Here's the catch, though, and this is where it gets interesting. $40,000 a year that shows up whether or not you work is an entirely different kind of money than $40,000 you have to earn. One of them requires you to show up to a job every single day or it disappears. The other one keeps arriving whether you're sick, on vacation, switching careers, or taking a nap on a random Tuesday. The dollar amount is identical. The freedom underneath it is not even close to the same thing. That's the actual prize hiding behind the number, and almost nobody talks about it this way. $1 million doesn't buy you a lifestyle upgrade most of the time. What it buys you is optionality. It buys you the ability to say no to a job you hate without panicking about rent. It buys you the version of confidence where you negotiate like someone who can actually afford to hear no, because you can. Researchers who study this stuff have a term for the amount of money where you stop fearing being fired, and $1 million
Comfortably clears that line for most people. And here's something that should genuinely reframe how you think about the whole chase. The people who actually have $1 million invested rarely feel like they crossed some finish line into a new identity. Survey after survey finds that most millionaires don't even call themselves wealthy. They call themselves middle class or upper middle class. The number in the account changed. The person driving to work in a Honda Accord mostly didn't. It gets even more counterintuitive when you look at how they actually got there. Most self-made millionaires didn't inherit the money and didn't earn some flashy six-figure salary their whole career. A
a huge share of them never earned over six figures in any single year. What they had instead was decades of a boring, unremarkable savings habit that nobody would ever put in a movie because there's nothing to film. Just the same automatic transfer month after month for a very long time. So if the yacht was never really the reward, what does change? Mostly invisible stuff. The check engine light becomes an errand instead of a 5-alarm crisis. You stop doing anxious math at the grocery store. A slow month at work stops feeling like the beginning of a spiral. None of that photographs well for social media, which is probably exactly why nobody talks about it. The real benefits of hitting this number are things you feel at 2 in the morning when you're not lying awake, not things you can show off at a barbecue. I think the goalpost problem is really the whole story here. As soon as one number starts to feel achievable, culture quietly moves it. Surveys now show most people think you need over $2 million to be considered truly wealthy, not one. Give it a decade and that number will move again. For the exact same inflation reasons, $1 million doesn't mean what it used to. If you're chasing the feeling of having arrived, you will never arrive, because the number is designed to always sit just out of reach.
The fix isn't earning your way to some mythical bigger number so the fantasy finally feels real. The fix is redefining what you're actually chasing in the first place. You're not chasing a yacht. You're chasing $40,000 a year that shows up whether you work or not, and the peace that comes with never being one bad month away from disaster. That's genuinely achievable. It's just quieter and less photogenic than what you pictured when you closed your eyes at the start of this video. So here's what I want you to actually walk away with. Stop measuring your progress against a mental image built by movies from decades ago. Measure it against the real thing $1 million produces, which is roughly $40,000 a year of income that doesn't care if you show up to work tomorrow. That's the actual milestone. Everything else was marketing. What did you picture when I told you to close your eyes at the start of this video? Tell me in the comments. I read every one of them. And if this changed how you think about the number you're chasing, subscribe. Because this channel is entirely about the milestones that actually matter, not the